good. Give it a second. Streams are coming online. Welcome as you come online to Belvedere First Assembly of God. It is Wednesday afternoon at lunchtime, which I know we're doing this a little off-center of where we'd normally be. Blame that on Curtis, because he's the youth pastor. That's who we blame stuff on. Anywho, good to see everybody. We'll give you just a second to come on while I'm sitting here rolling up my sleeves. Moment of honesty here. The other shirt made me look really chubby, and I switched. And now I just knocked down my... that's all right. That's all right. We got it. Nope. We'll get it. We'll get it. All right. We're online. When you get in there, if you want to tell me hey or hi so I know you're there, that would be great. I will see it in our little chat window here. Maybe it's just us today. Usually it takes everybody a minute or two to get online. I know I should have started exactly at 12, right? But maybe you're still at the drive-thru at McDonald's. They're still at the drive-thru at KFC. Maybe 12:15, 12:30 is a better time. That way they already got their potatoes. I'm going to tell you that Curtis orders... What'd you get?
I got the potato bowl without chicken.
Okay. Two things. One, when I was a kid and you ordered Kentucky Fried Chicken, you always had enough chicken because you ordered the number of pieces according to the numbers of the family, right? You always had enough corn because who wants that much corn? You had plenty of biscuits, right? And you always had plenty of coleslaw. The one thing you did not have enough of was mashed potatoes. It was right. It was like, and everybody's like being careful because you don't want to scoop the whole thing, but you really do want a lot of those mashed potatoes. And I feel like when they do the bowl and they fill it with mashed potatoes, it just violates that whole thing, right? Like my whole childhood I was trying to get. And now they just fill a whole bowl. Anyway, so you get the bowl that has the chicken and the gravy in it, except you're vegetarian.
Yeah.
So
I get the potato bowl with no chicken.
With no chicken. He goes to Kentucky Fried Chicken for a potato bowl. He also eats healthier than me and will probably live longer. You know, that's how...
I don't know.
That's how you roll, dog.
The gravy is not healthy.
That is true. So I'm going to check real quick and make sure we are coming through. Kind of talk about, before we get... I'm going to do the story of Jephthah today, and we're going to kind of talk our way through that. And, there we go.
Jephthah.
All right. We've had a day, haven't we?
We have.
I know, right? I hope I don't look sweaty. It's okay. I ran over to my house to grab my stuff and ran back.
Is it hot outside?
No, it's actually very nice. You know, it's much nicer than the weather in Florida, I hear. Tom, Nicole, Hannah. Who else do I know that moved down there? I know a bunch of people. Chris and Tara are heading down there. Tara might even put us on the... She puts us on the TV sometimes for the kids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know. How cool is that?
It's cool.
So anyway, what we're kind of talking about today is the whole be angry and sin not. How Christians get into conflict and how we can do a better job when we do. Because this is what I was telling Curtis. Sometimes I have to preach to myself first, right? And I have not had a good day as far as healthy conflict and avoiding unnecessary conflict. That has not been my story this morning. I have been more involved in unnecessary conflict and possibly at times initiating some conflict.
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, I know I got mad because there's a person we tried to help back in the day and things didn't turn out right, and they left mad, and then they got on there the other day to say a bunch of bad stuff about me. They even hashtagged bad pastor. Like, that's awesome, man. We really just tried to help you and your family, and this is, and it is what it is, man. We still love them, right? You still love people because that's where, hey, Eva, how are you doing? Because, you know, that's where you're at, and it happens. And so I thought, you know what, let's talk about it today. I got Curtis here, and we'll kind of talk about conflict resolution. We are both, I would say that people tend to bend towards fear or anger. Like the fear people, when they come into conflict, they want to hide the conflict, avoid the conflict, get away from the conflict. Anger people tend to escalate the conflict, tend to charge head on into it, and sometimes make it a whole lot worse. I think when the Bible says be angry and sin not, you could put David right in front. Hey, David, be angry, don't sin. Okay. Right? Right. I'm still working on that one. I'm good with the first part.
Right.
I'm good with the be angry. The second part, we're still a little sketchy on. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
All right.
I am wonderful. I look down at the computer instead of the camera, so I'll look back up at the camera and say, I'm wonderful. I am learning how to talk into a camera.
Yeah, we're talking about being conversational. I was joking with him because on our last video, he's kind of like, like right into the camera.
I can't look away.
It's like drawing me in, man. It's drawing me in. But we're having a good time here today. One thing I like about our church, by the way, if you ever hang out with us, there's a lot of laughter in this place. There's a lot of joy. I say church is going through a thing right now with people. It's a hard time for churches, but I can tell you this, that in our church at least, man, people are happy to be here, and we actually love each other, and we go out and feed the community, and we go out and love on the community, and we, you know what I'm saying? Like I always tell everybody, you can't fix everything, but we can fix us, right? And God has been better to us than we deserve. Yes. Amen? So you got a couple verses down there. Before we even start in the story, let's start with that. What verses you got?
Oh, I was just we talk about being angry and not sinning.
So what's Matthew 12:36 about?
So Matthew 12:36 talks about how every word we say is we're going to be accountable.
Oh, I know this verse. For every idle word released,
yes,
that you will be held. Yeah, that we will be held accountable for every idle word released. Of all the verses in the Bible that should scare you, right? Because we will be. And when I say when it says every word released, it means every word typed too, right? God is going to hold me accountable, and there will probably be a long talk at the throne room, as we're going through. It looks like you were kind of angry here when you were typing. I was like, I was a little out of sorts, Lord. I was not in the best place.
I feel like Judgment Day is going to be a very, very long day.
Well, so here's one, time will be no more, so that's good.
Right.
We got that time. Here's an interesting thing. I tell this to people too, because when it comes to Judgment Day, because we will all stand before the Lord and give an account. The thing about it is to remember as a Christian, though, is whereas when you're not saved, you go before the great white throne judgment, and God judges you across the line, good and bad. And of course, we all know that we've done so much in our lives that if He wants to blow the whistle, He could call us, right? But those who have accepted His Son Jesus, we get judged by Him at the mercy seat. Right. And that there's mercy there for those that have called upon the name of the Lord. So I would say it's the difference between going up before Judge Judy or your dad. Right? Because Judge Judy does not care, right? Like Judge Judy, but you'll hear the person start, but I don't care. What, right? It's yes or no, you did or you didn't, and that's all she wants to know. Whereas your dad, I've done some dumb stuff and have my dad come back and be, it's okay, son, I love you. Right. And I'm like, I really thought you were going to yell at me on this one. I thought that was coming. There were times with my own kids too, where I'm like, listen, right now you don't deserve mercy, but I'm giving you mercy because it's what I want in my life, right? So,
growing up, I would rather get disciplined by my dad than my mother.
Really? Mm-hmm. Mom whoop ya?
Yeah. Yes. Mom was the yeller and the, And then I made a mistake growing up. She always said, "Wait till your dad gets home." Well, my dad was working 12 hours a day, so one day he came home and he would always just have a talk with me. Son, you didn't treat your mom right. Tomorrow, treat her better. So one day, I was a dumb teenage kid, and my mom says, "You wait till your dad gets home." And I said, "What? Is he going to have another talk with me?" Oh! That was the end of the talks.
Oh my gosh. Gosh. Hey, Rose, good to see you. And hey, Katie, good to see you there. Katie, we've actually been friends for a little while now, haven't we? Man, that's crazy.
Right.
All right. What do you got? What do you got in Ephesians? What's Ephesians 4:26-29 talk about?
It's more words.
It's almost like it's a book full of those, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
I gotta look it up here, so I don't crucify it. 26.
I suppose I could look for it in my own Bible here.
He says, "Be angry, but do not sin." That's what it says.
Oh, in your anger, do not sin.
Yeah.
Right?
Do not let the sun go down on your anger.
Okay, so be angry, but don't sin. And when you are angry, settle it before the end of the day. Hey, Janie.
Or else you don't get no sleep.
Oh my gosh, Katie's getting married. Where are you getting married at, Katie? Are you getting married here in Rockford, Belvedere? Or are you getting married, I don't know, at some exotic location? Well, go ahead and answer us that while you're doing that. So go ahead and keep reading it. So it says, be angry and don't sin. When you do sin, when you are angry, don't let the sun go down on your wrath.
Right, and then it says, do not give place to the devil.
Don't give a place to the devil. What is it? What do you think that means? Don't give place to the devil in the context of being angry.
I think when we get angry, I don't really think about what I'm saying a lot of times. And when I'm not thinking about what I'm saying, I'm letting something else come out of my mouth that shouldn't.
Yeah, and so even that, because I think too that sometimes we do try to make this too psychology or whatever, right? We talk about the anger and the emotions and those sorts of things, but understand too there is a demonic side too, especially anger, right? When you are really angry or really fearful, I'm going to make you drive to my church in Bruin. All right, I have no idea where that's at.
Bruin?
Berwyn? I don't know. I don't know, but we'll Google it. But let's get back to the lesson. But congratulations. But there is a demonic component to that, in that the enemy loves to feed on those feelings of anger, because the thing about sin is it always takes you further than you want to go. You let a little bit of it in your life and it begins to push you from behind, right? And it's kind of like even when you go to put on the brakes, right? And I always say that it happens with me, I'll get something stuck in my head, and the worst part is your wife is by you, right? And so that's the person you want to tell this angry thing to, right? Why, man, that is just wrong. You know what I'm saying? Just the funny thing is I've been doing some marriage enrichment things. I got a new marriage enrichment certification. And I was talking about this with married couples. And actually, I'll draw this thing on the board here in a second. But that's the problem, is I'll get stuck in my head, this angry thought or whatever. And I will literally wake up, because I get up way early, so Kristen's still in bed, so I go brush my teeth with this angry thought, and I'm like, don't say it. Go wash my hair with the angry thought, don't say it. And then before I leave, I always have Kristen pray with me. I go, hey, can you pray with me before I leave? And we hold hands, she prays for me, and I'll go in there, and it'll come out of my mouth. It's like it didn't even, you know what I'm saying? And I really think there is a thing where the enemy likes to push you from behind and say, yeah, you should totally say that thing, right?
It's a great idea, they said.
That's a great idea. You feel better if you said the thing. You should definitely put that out there. You'll build your relationship.
I watched an analogy the other day, as pastor had a wallet, and he said that you are definitely going to want what's in this wallet. So whoever wants to come up and take it, come take this wallet. And no one would come up, Finally, somebody come up and took the wallet, and they opened it up, and there's absolutely nothing in it. And he said, and that is sin. He said, sin will promise you the world, but when you take it, he said, it won't.
I think he's also probably cheap, though.
Yeah, because most people give like at least $1 bill,
Yeah, right. You get it. The person came up there for the illustration, right?
Wallets are cheap anymore.
That's actually good. You shouldn't have put that on there. Then I could steal it.
Oh, sorry.
I can't even steal it. All right,
my bad.
So
you said sin will take you further. We go and maybe think of it.
Yeah, and it will, right? Especially with stuff like anger, because anger puts that little fire in there, right? Pushes you forward. Anyway, okay, so go ahead.
Let him who steals steal no more. Instead, let him labor, working with his hands things which are good.
So we're kind of moving off there.
Yeah. So, anyways, it just talks about, hey, idle minds get you in trouble.
So let me draw my little picture here, because this is what I was drawing, and Curtis came in, saw it on my board, and he's like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, "Well, here's the thing I was talking about. How in a relationship, if you picture the relationship something like this. This is my little campfire down here, right? Like make my little X's right here, and make my little flames right here. And here we've got a tank full of water. Now, whenever you have a steam engine, right? Like a steam engine, we'll say like a train, like a locomotive, right? What you have is you have a system where the water gets heated by this fire. It has a valve that comes out, and this valve is going to feed whatever the engine part is, and then it's going to come back in here. So what's going to happen is this. This fire is going to heat up the water. That water is going to turn into steam. That steam is going to go over here to this engine, whatever's in the engine, and it's going to drive that thing. So that could be the wheels of a train. That could be the wheels on a ship, right? It'll turn the ship around. However it's going to do, but the steam comes in there, the pressure causes that movement transfers into energy, and then the condensated steam comes back and feeds back in so that you have a closed system, so all the water stays in there, you don't lose a lot of it, and you use this fire. That's why you see those, when they talk in the old movies, you used to see they put more fire in to make the train go faster, right? Because the more fuel you have, the hotter the water is going to get, the more steam is going to go, the faster that engine is going to push, particularly older engines, right? And I know I'm simplifying a lot of that, but just, go with me for some of you that are better mechanics than I am. You're a better mechanic than I am.
Not with steam engines.
Not with steam engines. But here's the thing about the steam engines. All of them have to have another little thing right here that looks like this, right? Oh, that's you, isn't it? D. Hey, D, we see you. And you'll see this in the movies where you have a thing that will blow off excess steam. The reason for that is if you get too much fire down here that heats up too much water and there's no release, this can only handle so much pressure. So when the fire gets too hot, this thing will explode, right? Like a pressure cooker, this thing will blow. So you have a valve that allows you to release some of that steam, to release some of the pressure that is on the engine. Now, in relationships, whether it be in church, whether it be husband and wife, whether it be between friends, there's always a little bit of tension or anger or a little bit of, if you think you're going to get married, Katie, and that they are always going to do what you want them to do, when you want them to do it, and act the way you want them to act, and feel the way you think they should feel, and be understanding of your feelings when you're going through stuff, and some days, I'm going to tell you, you're going to wake up mean. You're not going to know why. You just wake up mean, right? All these things kind of create this fire, right, that kind of stoke this fire, which create tension. Now, you need a little bit of that because you're two different people, right? And so there's always going to be a little bit of that that's going to keep the thing going, but that can be a good thing. Because, for instance, I always say Kristen is a very strong woman. We don't agree on everything, but that helps me because the way in which she interacts, where she says, you know what, I don't feel the same way about this that you do, and it causes me to think differently about a thing. Oh, hey, Mom, how's it going? My mom's on there, Brenda. Hi. That it creates that pressure in the system. If you don't have some sort of release valve for that, then it's going to overload the system and you're going to explode on the person. Now, here's what I said. In the context of marriage, I always say it's like this. This needs to be husband or wife, your same-sex friend, right? So a guy has the best guy friend, a girl has the best girlfriend, but it has to be somebody that when you vent to them, they release it, right? Because what I've also seen is somebody will have a friend that should release it, but instead of releasing it, they feed it back into the system and just increase the pressure. So they'll be like, listen, I've been having a problem with my husband because he is just being this and he is being that and he's being the other. And all of a sudden they start feeding back into that person, yeah, well, you need to give him a piece of your mind, and yeah, you need to do this, and yeah, you need to do that. And then the next time they see him, they're like, yeah, you do this, that, and the other, and I hear about how terrible you are. And all of a sudden they're feeding back in, putting more pressure on the system because they didn't release that. From a Christian perspective, anytime somebody gives us something where we're helping release that pressure on their lives, we take that to the cross, right? So if Curtis comes to me and he's like, man, Ashley has been so mean to me, right? Ashley has just been busting my chops. I don't know why she's so mean.
I got a bruise.
Yeah, right. She's been banging on my arm, right? And I'm just, then the thing I would do after we have our conversation is the first thing coming out, man, Lord, bless Curtis and Ashley. God, help Curtis with this situation to get over. Lord, help Ashley to understand him, right? Like I would immediately take that to the cross and begin praying for it. The problem is some people that should be your release valve feed back into the system by feeding it into other people, by making it into a gossip thing, by putting that thing back in, and again increasing the pressure on it. Or here's my favorite: when you have somebody, you're trying to pour your heart out to them, and they're just like, "Yeah, you are wrong. Yeah, you should." Not that you don't need correction. I'm not saying that, but I've had friends where I'm like, hey, let's be accountability partners. And they're like, yeah, accountability partners. Accountability partner is this. You say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. They say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And you kind of work out, kind of somebody to confess to, let them know what's going on in your life. And I used to have a friend, and I would confess all the stuff that I'm going through. Hey, man, I, did this today at work, and I did this today at work, and blah, blah, blah. And he'd just be like, well, you know what you need to do. And they just give me advice on all this stuff. And I know what I need to do. I know what I should have done. I wouldn't even confess it if I didn't have some idea that I took a wrong turn when doing it. Right? And instead, just turns it back into that and then just increases the pressure because now I've told somebody, but there was no release to it because it just fed it back in and said, yeah, well, you know what you should have done? Yeah, I do. I actually did. That's why I'm telling you I messed up and I just want to confess to somebody. And, like the Bible says, confess your sins one to another. Hey, Robert, Robert Kirch was here yesterday. He was the one talking to me. Robert's actually a Christian counselor if you're in the Belvedere area. Oh, good. Take care, Katie. Get back to work. He's a great counselor. If you're in the Belvedere area looking for a Christian counselor, he's a great guy to go to. So just making a little plug for you there, Robert. Or as I know you, Bob. It says Robert there, though, right? So anyway, that's kind of just one of the things I was talking about in conflict. You got to have somebody, and it was Scott Brown, a pastor I used to serve, always said, only dump on someone who can vent, right? Like only put it on them if they can. Because some people too, and I'll say this, and you probably know what I'm talking about here. Sometimes I have people that don't mean to be negative, but they tend to see the world as in what problems are going on. what's wrong, what sort of things aren't right, and stuff like that. And sometimes they'll come to me and they'll have a whole lot of stuff going on, and I'll be like, listen, I need a break. I can only take so much negative in my soul, right? Like I can feel when it's starting to weigh me down, starting to change my opinion about somebody, starting to change how I feel about somebody, right? That I got to say, you know what? I can't take this negative into my soul. I'm gonna have to take a time out on this and just kind of get to a place where it kind of, because you'll find, man, if you have people that do that to you a lot, right?
It works on you.
Yeah, it really does, right? It kills your spirit. It sucks the energy out of the room, kind of thing, right? Right. What are your thoughts, Curtis?
I almost bought a shirt yesterday that said "Good vibes only."
Good vibes only. And the thing is, I'll say this for those that are like that. Honestly, it's usually a gift of discernment. It's a very needed thing, but optimism is also needed, right? Like we also need people who say, "Yeah, but it's going to be okay. Things are going to be all right." You know what I'm saying? Versus,
right.
What all is wrong with people? Because listen, there's a lot of stuff wrong with a lot of people out there.
Right. We all got problems.
Hey, Dolores, good to see you. Thanks. Again, that's me. Amen. Amen. So, you got any more? What else do you got there?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, there's ways to vent. One story is from I think his name's Spofford. He wrote "It Is Well," and in 1873.
It is well
I'm not gonna sing.
with my soul.
I'll do the Dying Fish, but I can't sing. So, anyways, the ship sank with his daughters on it. And instead of being angry at God and being angry at people around him, he wrote the song "It Is Well," which has changed thousands of lives since then. Another lady, I just wrote this down too. She was Candace Leitner in 1980. Her daughter, Carrie, died from a drunk driver. And she formed the national organization, Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
So, you know what's good about that too, right? Because she took what made her angry and did something productive with that. Right? Because that fire can help. That fire can get you going. Listen, you should know when things are wrong and have a sense of righteous indignation. Be like, you know what? This thing is wrong. And a lot of times that comes from a good place. I want to fix this. Right. Problem is, we live in a world that knows they're going to get you to click on a link or watch a television channel if they can make you mad about it. Right? So, you know which one I think I clicked on? And I knew as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm going to read this, and it's going to make me angry. And there was a adult that went to live back with his parents and then moved back out. And after he moved out, he'd left some stuff there, and his dad destroyed it. And the courts came back and said that they owed their son money for what they destroyed.
Oh, I heard this story, yeah.
And what they destroyed was his pornography collection. And so now the parents are on the hook for $32,000 for his pornography. And you're just like, right? You're just, oh my gosh, right? Why are you know what I'm saying? And it makes you, but they know, right? They're going to put that out there. Hey, click on this thing, right? Hey, that person you don't like, they did a bad thing. You should click on this link. Hey, those people you don't like, they're out there doing these things. Click on this link, right? Tonight at 9, the world is ending. You better watch, right? Tonight at 9, Governor Pritzker, fill in the blank.
Right, exactly.
You just hear Governor Pritzker around here, and we're like, I'm already angry. We have a governor that we struggle with as a people, we shall say, right? But yeah, so, and we're already at 25 after, so I'm not going to read the whole story, but I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So the one I liked was Jephthah. We were reading the story about Jephthah. It says, Jephthah the Gilead was a valiant warrior, but he was the son of a prostitute. What version were you reading?
I had the Message, but I changed versions for this one.
Yeah. So. The Message says the son of a whore, right? We're like, wow, Message Bible, calm down, right? Like, calm down, Message Bible. It says, Jephthah the Gilead was a valiant warrior, but he was the son of a prostitute, and Gilead was his father. Gilead's wife bore sons. When they grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, you will have no inheritance in our father's family because you're the son of another woman. So Jephthah fled from his brothers, lived in the land of Tob. Then some worthless men, and the Hebrew for that is sons of Belial, is a literal translation, sons of the devil, sons of a gun, right? Son of a guns. Right? Some worthless men joined Jephthah and went on raids with him. So Jephthah's brothers stayed there, and they were agricultural, and they're staying in the house and doing those sorts of things. Jephthah gets a gang, and he goes out and raids. Raids, pillages, takes what they want, but he's a man of war. And so what ends up happening is Israel comes to a place where they need a man of war, and the brothers can't do anything because they're not men of war. So who do they go? Well, look who's coming back to me now. They're coming back to Jephthah. And here's the thing about Jephthah, that when you watch his life, you will see that he's a person who doesn't have his impulse for anger under control. His anger not only takes him to high places and helps him win the battle, right? So the good part of his anger is he is a man of war. And sometimes you need a diplomat and sometimes you need a man of war, right? Sometimes you need a guy who can kind of solve everything this way. And sometimes when the wicked, when the wicked are coming against you, you need a person who will stand up, hold that line and do what God has called him to do because God has called him to do it, right? And so Jephthah was that guy and they needed him. And Jephthah's like, how did it go? The Ammonites came, they fought against them, and they said to Jephthah, come be our commander. And Jephthah replied to the elders, didn't you hate me and drive me out of my father's family? Why have you come now when you're in trouble? And they said, that's true, but now we turn to you. Come with us. Right? Like, you're right. And he says,
forget about that.
He says, and so he says, okay, I'll lead your army, but then I'm going to be the leader forever. So once I win this battle, I'm still the judge after that. And so he wins the battle. He actually goes out into the battle. And what's interesting is he tells the Lord in the course of the battle that if the Lord will deliver this enemy into his hand, that he will sacrifice. When he comes home, the first thing that comes out that he sees when basically he's walking up the, like a country road where you have the big long driveway, right? Mm-hmm. And you're walking up that path. He says, the first thing that comes out to me on the path, I'm going to sacrifice it to the Lord. And he's probably assuming it's going to be one of his sheep or his goats or something out there on the front porch. Maybe Fluffy, hopefully not, right? But if Fido comes running up to him, But as it turns out, it's his daughter. And his daughter comes out. Now, the thing about the Bible is it doesn't whitewash anything. It doesn't, try to make it sound better than it is. He did something rash. He shouldn't have done it. And it gets a little ambiguous in the text about how he carries out his vow, but whatever way he carries it out, it's either she's sent off to live in the mountains by herself, or that he actually follows through and does something which would be an abomination to Yahweh. Right, which would be human sacrifice. Yahweh always is on to Israel about not being like that. However, Jephthah, being around the Canaanites who did human sacrifice, may have seen that from them, right? Because we know the Moabites with Chemosh and the other Philistine nations around them also did that. And so he's this person. And so then even after that, because you get into chapter 12, and then, what is it? The Ephraimites come up, and the Ephraimites are like, hey, how come you didn't let us go to war with you? And the reason they want to go to war, by the way, is because you get to plunder.
This one made me giggle.
Right. When you go to war against somebody and you kill the enemy and the other enemy flees the field, they drop all their valuables, run as fast as they can, whatever weapons they have. The metal is very precious, whether they be bronze weapons or iron weapons. At this time in Israel's history, I'm thinking they had mainly bronze weapons. The Philistines and the Canaanites had iron weapons. They didn't have a lot of those. In fact, you know that because in 1 Samuel, when we get to after the book of Judges of 1 Samuel, only Saul and Jonathan go out with a sword, right? Like everybody else has got a spear or whatever they can get. So there's a lot of spears and stuff like that. But the point is, whatever valuables the enemy had on them, you get. The Ephraimites are mad because they didn't go out to war, and Jephthah basically whoops them. He whoops the snot out of him because Jephthah's a man of war, and that's what he does. And then what happens is, and keep in mind, this isn't an external enemy. These aren't the Moabites. These aren't the Canaanites. These aren't the Philistines. This is Gilead fighting Ephraim. These are two of Israel's sons fighting each other. And there's a river they have to get across. And when you get to the river, they say, okay, you got to say the word Shibboleth, right? And so the modern equivalent would be like this. You come to the river and they say, what do you call that group of people over there? And they goes, oh, that's all y'all. Okay, we'll go on across. And he says, hey, what's that group of people over there? Oh, that's those people. That's Ewans, right? So up here, people say Ewans a lot. Down south, we say y'all or all y'all, right? And so basically, if they say the word one way, they know they're from Ephraim. If they say it a different way, they know they're from Gilead. And so at the river, they say the word Shibboleth, and however they say that determines whether they live or die. This is a good example of what happens when Christians begin attacking other Christians, right? They're both sons of Israel. They should be on the same side. They took something that shouldn't have been a big conflict. Okay, Ephraim didn't get involved, and Jephthah kind of says, well, this, that, and the other. There's some back and forth about why that didn't happen. You can kind of see that maybe one side had their reasons for not doing it, because Jephthah's impulsive, and my guess is Jephthah's like, it's time to go, and if Ephraim's not going to show up, it's kind of like the car's leaving in 5 minutes, whether or not you're in there, right? And the car left, and the Ephraimites weren't in there, and then he came back, and the Ephraimites were like, dude, he's like, no, I wasn't waiting for you. I'm going out to fight these people, right? But the thing is where there could have not, there didn't need to be the conflict. And I was a history person, like in Rome and all of the great empires. It's always the civil wars that destroy the countries, right? the external wars are usually there after the internal wars have already weakened them, right? Rome was weakened by so many civil wars before the German barbarians finally came through and broke through the walls and stuff like that. And man, we're in this time of division, right? We're in this time where people get angry about stuff. They feel very comfortable letting you know, not that you're different, not that you have the same information and came to a different place with it, but if you don't believe like I do when it comes to this, this, and this, right? Our shibboleth now, you walk into a store and they go, mask or no mask.
Right.
Right? And then all of a sudden, it's war, right? Are you vaccinated or not? Oh, that's what,
Right.
and the thing is there are things that cause us to fight against each other. And they're important issues. We're not saying they're not important issues. Jephthah needed to go out and fight this battle. These things needed to be handled. But they should not have come back and fought each other. They should not have come back and taken it out on the sons of Israel, right? On the people that should have been their kin. And that's kind of how the story of Jephthah goes. You have somebody who's really good at being angry and not so great at the sinning not. So for all you Jephthahs out there, man, we feel you, right? You have some thoughts? I kind of did the whole story thing. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, I'm not really on that.
Go ahead.
I studied Jephthah a few minutes before we started.
Well, I told him literally 10 minutes before I turned on the thing, hey, by the way, I want to do the story of Jephthah. Do you know it? He's like, yeah, of course, right? Jephthah. Who doesn't know?
Everybody knows that story.
Everybody's favorite story. I can't tell you how many times people are like, you heard the story of Jephthah? Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Great, Jephthah.
Did you know David?
Yeah. Can we talk about David? Well, actually, no, you had the good one, too, about two people that came to those places, right, where they got mad about something. You had Job and who?
David.
Okay, so
David
kind of
wrote
give
the Psalms, where David always kind of vented to God.
David pulled out the guitar, turned on the distortion.
Right.
He played some heavy metal out there in the field.
On his harp.
Well, because listen, man, those imprecatory psalms, David was mad, wasn't he?
Right, yeah.
And he was pouring out his heart to God. Well, how long are you going to let my enemies triumph over me, right?
Right.
So he did. He poured
Right.
it into music, and
then Job, he vented a lot to his friends, and then his friends ended up giving him wrong advice.
Yeah.
They kind of did the whole.
yeah, his friends were not the right, because what did they do? They didn't say, you know what, you're right, you haven't done anything wrong, and it is terrible. No, they said, nope. You know why? If you did this, Job.
Right.
Listen, Job.
Right.
God rewards the righteous and he punishes the wicked. So if you're getting punished, it must mean you're wicked, right? And he's like, I promise you, I haven't done anything, right? And so Job knows what's going on, and all they're doing is increasing that pressure. And finally, what is it? God stepping in that actually pulls that plug. Because after you see that too, God steps in on Job, and he's like, who is this who darkens my counsel?
Right.
One, if I'm so mad, I'm walking around the sanctuary and I'm just complaining my heart out to God, about God, how long, right? And all of a sudden I turn around and God's right there. Yeah, right? It's like, I'm sorry, David, what? And I'll be like, God, right? And he does the same thing, but the thing about it is Job is so encouraged by the breaking of it. Even of God calling him out, he says, I will never speak like this again, because before I knew you in my mind, but now I've seen you with my eyes, right? Everything has changed now that I know you like this, right? And again, when he took it before God, that's when this kicked on, right? Because he had a whole lot of friends that just increased that pressure, that just dumped it back on him, that just, judged him for what he was doing, telling him he was wrong. The worst part, I did a sermon on Job a few weeks ago, and the worst one was, somebody said, well, if your kids died, because, Job's kids get killed in a storm, he's like, if your kids died, it's probably because they had sin in their life.
Right.
I mean, oh my gosh.
Right.
Like, of all the things to say to
And he
someone
still
who's
went back and
suffering-
talked to him.
Right. Suffering from the loss of a child, and he's going to say, well, it's probably your kid's fault because they sinned. Oh my gosh. Right. But finally God steps in, and that's the happy ending of Job, is that God does, right, release that.
They didn't have counseling classes back
They did not
then.
have. They had no counseling. Yeah, they were not. They did not. None of these people were licensed counselors. None of them were. They're like, Job, you know what? You're kind of in a clinical depression. We're gonna have to push you to the next level. Have you tried some?
Have you tried
some
that?
Medications. We'll get you through this. Yeah, no. They just said, yeah, it's your fault, Job. You probably sinned.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
All
like,
right.
"Oh, thanks."
What kind of closing thoughts you got? What do you got? Give us a closing verse there.
One thing, Psalm 66, 17 through 20. It says, I cried to him with my mouth, and he was extolled with my tongue. If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. But certainly God has heard me. He has attended to the voice of my prayer. Blessed be God, who has not turned away from my prayer, nor his mercy from me. So David leaves it with, you know what? God always heard me.
And it's that mercy too, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of that. Man, what is that again? Go to that. What is
Psalm 66, 17 through 20.
I like that. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it in my version. Not because I don't like his, just because I want to hear it again. What's Psalm
Right.
60?
66, 17 through 20.
17. That's good, man. I'll start at 16 because it says, Come and listen, all who fear God, and I will tell what he has done for me. I cried out to him with my mouth, and praise was on my tongue. If I had been aware of the malice in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. However, God has listened. He has paid attention to the sound of my prayer. Blessed be God. He has not turned away from my prayer or turned his faithful love from me. So whenever it says faithful love, what does it say in yours?
Mine says, nor his mercy from me.
So in yours it says mercy. The word there is actually hesed. So there's a specific word that they always use because it's different, and it's only used of God towards us. Like, it's never used of us towards God. Like, we can't have mercy on God, right? We can't. But hesed, it's his loving kindness. It's a love that makes. It doesn't really have like in English, right? That's why everybody always translates that word different. They don't know what to do with that word hesed. But it's the way in which God loves us like little children. And so even though, he's got this stuff going on and some iniquity and he's crying out, that he knows at the end of the day, man, God is going to hear his prayer. That at the end of the day, there may be times when all of your friends dump it back on you, that everybody pours it back on you, that nobody understands what you're going through. And there's that, right? There's that moment where you got to take it to the Lord in prayer, right? That he is there. There are times I will lay down on the sanctuary floor and just put out my hands and say, Lord, you are the only one. You're the only one that knows, the only one that understands, the only one that can solve, the only one who can save, the only one who can heal, the only one can deliver. Lord, you are the only one, right? And that's where David came to, and that's where we're going to leave you at. Hey, Michael, good to see you there, brother. Good to see you out there in Missouri, or Missouri. I know, it's been a long time. It's probably like 1,000 degrees out there, too. You're probably so warm. But we love you guys. Thanks for being with us for lunch. Hope you have a good lunch. Hope you have a good day. Be real.
Be loved.
Be one.